None of the names of the places or people rang any bells with her, but why would they? As Dominic loved reminding her, she was an orphan. She had no one but him. The door banged shut, and Ashley jumped as Dominic came into the room, shaking the rain from his hair. "Hi," he said, as he peeled off his coat and bent down to take off his boots. "Hi back at you," Ashley said, getting up from the couch. "How's your day been so far?" "Fine. Lunch ready?" A sliver of apprehension slid through her as she realised the hour. No, but won't take me 2 minutes to heat up the meatballs. Sorry, I lost track of time." She rushed into the kitchen without looking at him. Banging the pot onto the stove, Ashley opened the fridge and grabbed the plastic container that held the spaghetti and meatballs in tomato sauce she'd made yesterday. Dom loved Italian food. He said it reminded him of his heritage. Not that he needed reminding. The little gang he had was almost mafia-like. "Damn," she swore quietly. Her hands were shaking, and she'd spilled some of the food onto the naked gas flame. It hissed before sending up a terrible burned odour. "Careful," he said. Ashley froze for a second. She hadn't heard him enter the kitchen. "Sorry," she muttered, hating the fear he aroused in her. Dominic came up behind her and put his hands on her shoulders. "Can't have you getting hurt," he said, kissing her neck. Still wary, but hopeful now, she turned to face him, lifting her mouth for a kiss. When he was like this, he was more than nice. He was the man she fell in love with. She wondered how on earth she could ever think of leaving him. He was attentive, loving, and kind. Dominic ran his hands down the sides of her body and gently tapped her hips. "What have you been doing this morning?" he asked as he moved to the counter and got out the crockery and cutlery. Ashley stirred the sauce and turned on the oven so she could heat the bread rolls. "Just the normal type of things," she answered. "I've washed and cleaned, had all of that done by 9-ish, so I walked down the street, did a bit of shopping, came home." "You walked? It's all of 3 degrees outside." "I know, but I like the cold. Clears my head." The rich tomato sauce began to boil, so she took it off the heat and ladled it into 2 bowls. "Who did you see down the street?" he asked casually, but Ashley could tell it was a loaded question. If her answer displeased him, well, like the weather in the snowy mountains, he could change within minutes. "No one, really. Didn't talk to anyone," she answered. "I saw Mrs. Harper from a distance. There's lots of blow-ins, though. Heaps of people combing the clothes stores. Must be a bit colder than some of the tourists expected." "Crazy they are," Dominic answered as he sat down at the table. "They don't realise that buying the clothes up here is 3 times more expensive than if they'd bought them before they came." Ashley said nothing as she placed his meal in front of him and then sat down with her own bowl. "Still, it's good for the town's economy." Dominic plunged his fork in, winding the spaghetti around it, and smiled at her across the table. "So, what do you have in mind for this afternoon?" The picture from the magazine flashed into her mind. She really wanted to research the little town of Blinman. "I'm not sure," she answered. She stopped talking, wondering if this were the right time. It was clear he was in a good mood. "Dominic?" She paused, about to tell him about the photo and the magazine article, how she'd felt instantly drawn to what she'd seen, but couldn't understand why. Something inside her made her stop. He looked expectantly at her, his fork halfway to his mouth. When it was clear she wasn't going to say anything more, he frowned before raising his eyebrows in encouragement. "No, it doesn't matter," she said, shaking her head. "I've forgotten what I was going to say." Flicking her hand dismissively, she deliberately made her tone light, even though her stomach was in knots. Dominic narrowed his eyes and continued to watch her while he swallowed another mouthful. "Something on your mind?" he asked quietly. "No," she answered firmly.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.